Wall Street Journal recently pointed out that his inconsistent strategy may damage U.S. interests more than it challenges China in the long run.
The tariff on China will now go up to 125% because China imprudently decided to retaliate against the United States.
China is accusing the U.S. of bullying and blackmail.
The U.S. and China lock horns again in a growing tariff war. Many are asking, who's really paying the price? The answer might hit closer to home than some expected. First of all, we need to know that the tariffs are not paid by foreign governments. They are paid by the U.S. importers, businesses that purchase goods from overseas. Here's a quote from Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics.
And I think that's a problem. It means higher inflation for U.S. consumers. It's a tax on American consumers.
As we all know, this is not the first time Trump imposed tariff on foreign countries.
And rebuilding China. It's time that we rebuild our country.
And there were already consequences from tariff he imposed during his first term. A 2019 study by the New York Federal Reserve found the U.S. consumer bore nearly the entire burden of Trump's previous tariffs. And we're very likely to see a similar pattern now. So when will it hit? Experts say the impact could start surfacing within weeks, especially on products like electronics, tools, apparel, and furniture. Inflation has been a huge issue lingering over the U.S. economy in the past few years, and the Feds are trying everything they can to lower the inflation rate to 2%. However, economists say that the administration's tariff plan could be inflationary. Some are on specific industries, like pharmaceuticals and automakes. Others are on entire countries. In response to U.S. tariffs, China has raised duties on American cars, agricultural goods, and semiconductors. And it's not just tit for tat, it's a message. China's play isn't just economic, it's strategic. They're signaling a push towards strengthening ties with other trade partners. Beijing is using this moment to push for closer economic ties with the Global South and the BRICS nations, and to accelerate moves away from the US dollars. This tariff conflict could give China more incentive to build a trade system and financial network that reduce dependence on the US, including expanding use of the yuan in cross-border transactions. In fact, China has recently signed new trade agreements with Russia, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia that allows for non-dollar settlements to help reduce dependence on American markets and currency dominance. And questions were raised about whether the tariff war could backfire, not just economically, but geopolitically. It might speed up the process of de-dollarization globally. And now let's focus on the math behind these moves. Trump's tariff policy often leans on the argument of the US trade deficit, but economists are raising red flags. According to a recent CNN report, the formula Trump's team used to calculate the trade deficit might be flawed. If that's the case, the very foundation of this tariff strategy could be shaky. In the report, economists point out that Trump's advisors used an equation that double counts imports and undervalues services exports, essentially skewing the deficit to look worse than it actually is.
They claim that they picked that 0.25 based on a result in a research paper, but they picked the wrong number. That number should be close to 1.
And that's a big deal, because if your argument for a trade war is built on faulty math, you're risking building a policy on a house of cards. Even more, many economists argue that a trade deficit isn't inherently bad. It often means consumers have strong purchasing power or that a country is investing more than it saves. But for Trump and his supporters, the deficit has become a symbol, a sign of lost manufacturing, outsourcing, and unfair foreign competition. And here's a bigger question: is this what American people want? Polls show the divided nation. Some support the idea of bringing jobs back, but many are wary of higher prices and economic uncertainty. According to a CBS poll from last week, more than half American people rate the US economy as fairly bad or very bad, while 53% said the economy is getting worse. Trump's overall approval rating dropped to 47% this month, down from 50% in March and 53% in February. Trump has been claiming that tariff is a beautiful thing that will bring jobs and investments back to the US. However, research shows that instead of reshoring, companies often just move production to other low-cost and low-tariff countries like Vietnam or Mexico. And if production does move back to the US, the higher labor costs could drive prices up even further. And finally, is there a strategy here? President Trump has imposed, paused, and canceled tariffs multiple times. Critics are saying it's creating instability, while supporters argue it's part of the broader negotiation tactic, as the administration claims these are calculated steps. But Trump's recent reaction seems rather impulsive, often reversing course and undermining U.S. allies with unexpected tariffs. On the one hand, Trump tried to show his tough stance against China by raising the tariff to 145%. On the other hand, he failed to act decisively on key issues like TikTok ban, implementing a 75-day extension for the TikTok sale deadline. He also stated last Wednesday that he still hopes for a trade deal with China. Wall Street Journal recently pointed out that his inconsistent strategy may damage U.S. interests more than it challenges China in the long run.